What's up everyone, and today I'm playing to you Floowandreeze, and this is a very special deck profile as you can see from the title of this video. I got top 8 at a locals with this exact build, and honestly, I'm doing this one a little bit differently. Since this is a top cut build, I'm going to throw in the side deck as well. The reason why I don't like put side decks in most of my deck profiles is because it doesn't really change too much. Like a lot of times it's usually the same to like counter certain decks. And this is definitely a very powerful deck. Obviously I topped with it. Basically beating all of the top decks. I've beaten Phantom Knights with it. I've beaten Drytron, Tri-Brigade, Sword Soul, Shaddoll and Vote. And I'm going to get a little bit more like in depth to it once we actually start the video. So let's get right into it. First off, I run 3 Floowandreeze Robina. Robina is the starter for the deck, more or less. It's the one you always want to see open. Now, the Floowandreeze, at least the level 1s, all have an effect to when their effect resolves, you can normal summon a winged beast monster. So you don't special summon this deck at all. It's basically just every time you activate an effect, it's a double summon. So basically it's like effect, summon, effect, summon, effect, summon. That's really how this deck works. And it basically works under cards like Vandy's Ruler. And this deck does have a downside to where you cannot special summon the turn you activate, which isn't really a problem at all because this deck's just so powerful and it can bring out so many very powerful monsters. Now, Robina, when it's normal summon, you can search out 1 level 4 lower winged beast. And that's not Floowandreeze specific. You can search out, for example, Fairy Statue of the Stormwinds. If you play a Crow, you can search that out. Like, you can just search out 1 winged beast. It doesn't have to be Floowandreeze, which makes it really good. Next, I played 3 Floowandreeze and Eaglin. Eaglin is also a searcher for the deck, although it searches out your level 7 or higher winged beast. Considering every time an effect resolves, you can just normal summon an additional monster. You can basically like normal summon Robina, add normal Eaglin, add a level 7 or higher, tribute both for Pen, then normal summon again. You'll see more of that like once I get to like the combo video. I also run the 2 Stree. Stree, you can, when it's normal summon, you can banish 1 card in either graveyard. So definitely, it's really good. Sometimes it can kind of flop, like if they have Lancia, obviously you can't activate the effect. But you can then banish an opponent combo piece from their deck. Like, it's really good. I also run the 1 token, or toucan. I don't know why I just call it token by habit. Toucan, when it's normal summon, you can target one of your Floowandreeze monsters that is banished, add to your hand. It doesn't really come up too often. And the main reason why you really use it is, let's say you have Empen and your opponent destroys it in some way. You can use Stree to banish it, then Toucan to add it back. Speaking of Empen, I run the 1 Floowandreeze and Empen. This card is insane. It's a floodgate. If you control a tribute summon, if this card is tribute summon, you can add 1 Floowandreeze spell trap from your deck to your hand. Then immediately after this effect resolves, you can normal summon 1 monster. And the one cool thing is how this is just 1 monster, so it doesn't have to be a winged beast like the rest of them. Although all you run is winged beast, so like you could run Ruler if you want to, but considering you can't search it, like there's not really a point to running it. Now Empen, when it's on the field, your opponent cannot activate special summon monsters in attack position. So basically, it completely shuts off Link, so this deck hard counters Sky Strikers and Dragon Link for the most part. And when it attacks or is attacked, you can banish 1 card from your hand, have the attack and defense of the monster is battling. So it can get over big things. It's a floodgate. Definitely a very powerful card, and it has definitely put in a lot of work. Also run 1 Mist Valley Apex Avian. I actually say that's the high level one that I've used the least. Mainly just because the other has come up in more scenarios than Apex Avian. Avian is good, obviously it's one of the strongest high-level winged beasts because it can just bounce itself to hand to negate and you can obviously just summon it right back. Although not on the same turn because we don't have Thunderbird. Now next is a card that I actually run different from most meta decks. Like most meta decks, they play Ryza. However, I run the Dark Simorph. Dark Simorph has definitely, in like the tournament that I topped with this, it's definitely been like a hidden MVP for me, I guess. Because the one cool thing with Dark Simorph, your opponent cannot set any cards on the field. So they cannot set any traps, you cannot set any spells, or set any monsters. And considering 2 of my matches were Phantom Knights, yeah, that worked out real well. So I didn't have to deal with any Fog Blades. So while running Ryza over Dark Simorph is an option, personally, in my opinion, I just don't think it's worth the money. Like $50 for Ryza, nah, that's not even worth it to me. Dark Simorph is doing just fine. Also run the 1 Fairy Statue of the Stormwinds, which, as I said, like with Robina, you can search storms out with Rabina, so obviously you can get it almost all the time. I run the 3-dimension shifter because you want your cards to be banished more or less, because I actually forgot to mention, like, all the Floowandreeze level 1 monsters, when they're sent to the graveyard, they are banished, and when a winged beast monster is normal summoned, you can add them back. So literally, they just keep coming back to your hand, which is what makes this deck so consistent. And that's why you can run Dimension Shifter, because you don't use your grave at all. The most you interact with your grave is using Stree to banish the Empen. That's really all you do with your grave. So obviously, running Shifter hurts you none, but it's going to hurt your opponent quite a lot. I also run 3 Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring. Definitely, I'd say it's one of the best hand traps. Like, I was debating on between like which hand traps I'd rather run. I just basically just settled on Ash because Valor's nice, Nibiru's nice, but I didn't really have the room for them. So Shifter and Ash were just the better options to run. Moving on to the spells. I run 3 Floowandreeze Map. Map is definitely, I'd say, one of the most important cards in this deck, because without it, your normal summon it can be a bit of a glass cannon. Because if you negate the Rabina's effect, then the effect doesn't resolve, and you don't get an extra normal summon. So it's basically just normal Rabina pass. At least with the map, it basically gives you an extra summon. You kind of got to think of it in the way of like the True Draco spells and traps, that they can summon a monster. Basically, they're given the summon themselves, rather your main normal summon. So with Map on the field, you essentially get 2 summons, because the map has a very cool effect during main phase. You reveal one level 1 Floowandreeze monster in your hand, banish one Floowandreeze card with a different name. Then immediately after this effect resolves, normal summon the revealed monster. And the secondary effect, when your opponent normal summons a monster, you can normal summon one Floowandreeze monster. So basically, you can do all of your plays on your opponent's turn too. That's really good. I also run the 1 Alborz, the Sacred Land of Samorph, and the 1 Set Rotation. Originally, I was actually thinking of taking this card out, but it actually came up in some very clutch scenarios. Mainly because one time my opponent actually had a Mystic Mindset, so I just activated my Set Rotation to basically clear it. And Award's effect is pretty good too. All wind monsters gain 300 attack, so if your opponent activates it, it's just going to boost my own monsters. And you can reveal 1 level 5 or higher winged beast monster in hand. This turn, you can summon it for 1 less tribute. Then immediately after its effect resolves, you can normal summon it. Basically, it's like the map, it gives you an additional summon, which is really cool. So I think I'm actually going forward, it'll probably stay in. So jury's still out on it, but it definitely worked out really well. Obviously the 1 Terraforming, because you want to see a map as much as possible. I run 1 Floowandreeze and the Unexplored Winds. This card is very interesting. It has a Monarch Stormforth kind of effect to where if you're going to normal summon a monster, you can send 1 card, very specifically 1 card your opponent controls, and 1 monster you control as tribute. So it doesn't have to be a monster your opponent controls. You can tribute their field spell, their back row, whatever you want. Which has definitely been really clutch. Because in the same match, I actually went against Mystic Mine. Or not Mystic Mine, but they were playing Mystic Mine. I activate the Set Rotation to clear their Mystic Mine. Then I happen to have another one in hand. And I happen to draw this, and I just tribute 1 monster I control and their Mystic Mine to summon Apex Avion. So it basically just cleared Mystic Mine. So you have in main deck outs 2 Mystic Mine. Also run 3 Pot of Prosperity. Considering we don't special summon, our extra deck is irrelevant. Like, we could run Pot of Prosperity, or Pot of Extravagance, but I'd rather run Pot of Prosperity because that being able to activate is much more powerful than draw, because you got a bunch of good cards, and sometimes the ideal hand is, I'd say, Map, Rabina, and Eaglin. And it can definitely help with getting you into that ideal hand. Since I said that I don't special summon, obviously I'm going to run the 3 Pot of Duality. Duality, you can activate the top 3 cards of your deck, add 1 to your hand, and it stops you from special summoning for the rest of the turn, which the Floowandreeze wants to do that already, so the negative is non-existent. Now, I main deck 2 Dark Ruler no more. This has been pretty good because I have an unfortunate knack for losing dice rolls for some reason, and this definitely came in very handy. I also run the 1 Called by the Grave, Don't Want to Get Hand Trapped, and 1 Crossout Designator. I was going to have more, but they didn't arrive in time, which was kind of unfortunate. So I only had to play with 1 crossout, but I didn't need the extra crossout because I still topped in the end. Moving on to the traps. I run 3 Infinite Impermanents, obviously just a really good trap. I don't really need to explain why I'm running it. And I also run the 1 Floowandreeze and Dreaming Town. Now, while the map effect to do all of your combo plays on your opponent's turn, because you can normal summon if your opponent normal summons, sometimes they're not going to do that, obviously. And a lot of the decks don't need to. Like Swordslow, they don't need to. Shawl, they really don't need to. That just means they don't normal Alistair. But with Floowandreeze and Dreaming Town, it doesn't matter because it allows you to normal summon anyways. And Dreaming Town is also searchable off of M-Pen. So when you summon M-Pen, you can bring this out and then just during opponent's turn, activate it, do your full combo, and then set up alongside of M-Pen maybe a Dark Smorph or a Mist Valley Apex Avion. Moving on to the extra deck, I'm going to more or less skim through this pretty quickly because I think I only summoned from my extra deck a total of like 5 times. It doesn't really come up. First off, I run the 2 Link Rebos. I would say I run a bunch of level 1s, and sometimes ending on Link Rebo is something that can happen. So, because if you normal summon Rabina and activate some, I don't know, Imperm or something, and just negate your effect, and before it even activates or something like that, you can still just go in 2 Link Rebo, because if you didn't activate a Floowandreeze level 1 monster effect, you can still special summon. And this did come up occasionally. Next, I run the 2 Nightmare Phoenix. I run this for back row, but it didn't really come up at all. I also run the 1 Farragut because it can help by specialing summon out the Floowandreeze, which I think there's only like, I used the Link Rebo and 3 other cards. The rest of them I didn't really even use. I also run the 1 Wind Charmer, the 1 Barricade Board Blocker to grab back the continuous spells and the field spell. Blackluster Soldier, Soldier of Chaos, Saryuja, and Access Code. I didn't even bring Access Code out once. Now I run 1 Lureless Assembled Nightingale, 1 Downer Magician, and 1 Zeus. This actually did come up once. I don't remember the game state scenario, but basically I had I think I had 2 level 1s, an M-Pen, and a Berry Statue, and I took care of the statue and the M-Pen, leaving me with the level 1s when it came my turn. So I just went into Zeus to basically clear the board, although I believe it did get negated. And I also run the 1 Herald of Arclight, in case you want to, like, I don't know, if you have a level 1 on the field and normal Ash. Like, I had space, and was it going to come up? Probably not, because I never really did. So that was it for my Floowandreeze deck profile, and I was so happy that I topped with it. So that was really exciting. Let me know, what do you think of Floowandreeze? Do you think it's a pretty good deck? Do you think it's only going to get better when the new card comes out? Let me know in the comments, and I'll see you in the next video I make. Bye.